Alright, so I got this ZF5HP24 valve body that I'm working on out of a 1998 Jaguar. This is another trans from our local Jaguar dealership. And as you can see, I started doing this valve body. I got called away from the bench and was never able to return because it's actually very, very busy here. So what I did so far, these are the lower halves of the valve body, so those of course are clean. Valves seem good. Actually, I'm going to double check them anyway. This is the lower front half, and on this I updated put the second design regulator valve in, and we're gonna just got to put all this stuff back, the valve springs and the cover. And I didn't do anything with this yet, so I'm going to take the orifices, the check pulls, the filters out, the damper. We'll put it aside on the rig as it comes out. We'll clean this up, flat sand it, and put everything back, and I'll give you a close-up shot of this, of where everything goes. But the complaint with this transmission, anyway, just to let you guys know, was they were complaining of a noise, and also when I was questioning the technician, because I honestly didn't see too much with this, he had said he felt a slip in reverse, and it was making a noise at about 2,000 RPM. So at this point, pretty much narrowed it down to either a filter noise or a torque converter noise. So I'm waiting to hear from the company. I sent the torque converter out. They're going to cut it open this morning and give them a report. I would say either it's something in the converter, or I was thinking maybe the clutch of the converter started to come apart, maybe getting into the filter and clogging the filter partially, or to the point where it's going to make a noise, only because they said they did feel a slip in reverse. It raced up and then it went. So we're going to wait to see what we hear from them. So continue on this 5HP24 valve body. I know I got valve body videos out there, but I'm not sure if I actually have one working on the valve body and assembling the valve body. So we got our separator plate here with the gasket that goes on this side, and this is going to sit on here. So when I loosen this plate up and I take the plate off, what I like to do is just pick the thing up and flip it, because you're going to have these little orifices that are going to stick to the plate. So you want to be very, very careful in that sense. You got to put these things back exactly where they come out, because the holes are different sizes. So I do that, and actually there's a white orifice here that was stuck on the plate, so I knew kind of right where that went. So that's how I do that when I do these valve bodies. I loosen it up. On the back it has like these little tension plates, and the bolts go through. So I loosen those up and pop this thing out. The tension plates actually go across the plate like this. So once those come out, I flip it up. I try to push everything down with a scribe, and then I flip it up to see what else is on there or what I missed, and this way I know where it went. Okay, so now let's take these out one at a time. I'll give you a close-up shot of this when it's all clean, but we're going to start over here. We have a brown orifice. Okay, so I'm going to put it kind of right as it comes out. And then we have a blue one. All right, then moving down, we got a black orifice. Okay, then I'll go here. And then we have a check ball right below the black orifice. And just slightly to the left, we have another brown one. All right, then we have a small filter. I'll go here, and right next to that is a white orifice. All right, so that's pretty much this side. Now we're going to shoot across, and here is a damper. This damper, you definitely want to change with a new one if you do one of these valve bodies, because these things actually do tend to crack, and it'll give you all kinds of problems. I had one that was cracked. I had it actually slipping on the pull away. I had another one that I found that had a crack that when you got on the car and it shifted into second, it would go into failsafe. So that's a kind of like a problem area with this damper. I purchased the, just like anything, you know, with all these Jaguars and these high-end units, I have an original ZF kit, and a new one comes in that kit. All right, so we're gonna go right above this orifice is a brown. Right above the damper is a brown orifice, and then we're gonna continue on with a white one. Now there's two white orifices, but this hole, the one I just took out, is much smaller than the other one that I took out. Okay, now I have blue. All right, then we have a check valve and spring. All right, so I think that's about it. I think everything is out. So I'm gonna get my stone so we can flat sand this. Side. This is where the lower rear half of the valve body sits. I'm sorry, the upper. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just put you guys on hold for a minute, take this over to the sink and clean it up. And I will be back shortly. We'll put everything back in. We'll put a new gasket on. You know, we'll assemble this valve body, finish up the lower front half, and then I'll get the trans over here and we can actually install it onto the trans. All right, so I will be right back. All right, so I got this all cleaned up. So we're gonna put our orifices and all our goodies back. All right, so we'll start from up here again. We have the brown one. All right, and blue, and I'll give you guys a shot of this when it's all back together. Okay, then we have a black. Of course, also, before I take anything apart, I take a picture of it, just in case. So I have it on my phone. One check ball. Okay, here's our little filter. White orifice with the larger hole. Okay, now I'm going to come over here to the damper. So in my original ZF overhaul kit, they give you a new one. All right, actually, a lot of times the way you can check these to see if they're cracked, you got to kind of hold it and stick your air gun, you know, in this hole. There's a hole right here. You can stick your air gun in here, and with very little air, this will expand and you can actually check it for cracks. That's how I found one once. But this is, again, these things like to crack. They're bit of a problem, and if you do these overhauls on these valve bodies, I definitely would recommend to change this. All right, so to continue now, we're going to have our brown orifice, and then the white one, and blue. Okay, and then our valve and spring. If this valve and spring, actually something happens to this thing, you know, if it breaks or gets hot and it melts or something, these don't come in the ZF kit, but There's the ZF distributor, Ericsson Industries in Connecticut, and I believe they probably sell all these small parts. I've never had to buy one from them, but they pretty much have everything, because all they do is ZF stuff. Okay, so we have this ready to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'll give you guys a close-up shot of this, and then we will continue and put this valve body together. So let me just switch angles on the camera, and then we'll actually put the plate on so everything is held in place, and then we can continue putting the lower front half of the valve body together and put the rest of the valve body together. All right, so let me just switch angles on this camera. All right, so here's a quick shot. You guys can see the orifices here. Here's the black one, brown one, white with the large hole. You have your damper here, 3 more orifices here, the valve and spring, and you got your check ball here. So this is your typical Jaguar setup, and again, this may be different in Land Rovers and in BMWs. So you definitely want to be careful, take pictures, mark where all these orifices go. You really don't want to mix these up. Okay, so to continue, I want to put the separator plate on this because I don't want to lose anything from here. So we will get our gasket from our overhaul kit. All right, we'll put it on, and then of course I always turn it just to make sure there's no holes blocked. All right, this actually looks pretty good. All right, you got a little bit of the gasket sticking out here, but that's fine. All right, so I'm gonna actually just grease this up, hold the gasket in place. So this is actually going to go on this way. So you got to grease this side of the plate. Okay, center it. That looks pretty good. And this is going to go on. Gotta watch for that valve and spring. Okay, so this is going to go just like that. All right, now we have these little tension plates, or I guess that's what maybe they call them. I wouldn't tighten these, I would just do hand tight for now, because we still got to put that lower front half on, which has the kind of like the lineup dowel. You know, this piece right here. So I wouldn't tighten these because the plates may have to shift a little bit. So I'm just doing these hand tight. lower front half. Let me just use this again. Okay, this is our lower front half, and again, at the updated regulator valve. Okay, here is the older one. I'll put that aside. Spring there. Valve and spring. Valve in first and spring, and on this one, we do the spring and then the valve. Okay, so let me just get set up for this, and I'll be back in 1 minute. All right, so to continue on this, all right, so actually what I did with this was the valve body, this section of the valve body was not worn. I mean, it was in real nice shape, so I just elected to change the valve. If the valve body was worn, I'd have to buy the whole section and change all of the valves over. But this thing was really not worn at all, real nice shape, so I elected just to change the valve. All right, so now we got to put this cover on, and we got some heavy springs here. So first thing I'm going to do to try to lighten up on the spring load is I'm going to push this valve down, and then I'm going to shove the little screwdriver in here to hold it down, and that should stay just like that. All right, now we have to kind of push this thing down and try to get a bolt in there at the same time. It's a pretty heavy spring though. And you got to get it centered so the holes line up. Okay, let me just get one more in. All right. Tell you, it's real heavy, real tough to push that thing down. What I try to do, but it's a little tough sometimes, is put, you know, you put the bolt in the end, and that'll hold it. But I also try to keep it down and put another one in, so if you just put it in one end, you know, the thing won't fly up. This I'm doing to like 70 inch-pounds. Okay. All right. your manual valve. It's going to go in here. And we'll just double check, make sure we got good movement on those valves there. Let me just get my, it is, okay. Good. This I gotta just move a little bit. Okay, heavy spring behind that one. Alrighty, and we'll just check the others. That's good. 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 Okay. Alright, so this section is ready to go. Let's double check these here. That's good. Now remember from the video that you have the potential of this half the valve body, you know, cracking here, which they sell this as well, and then you just have to switch all the valves over. Okay. All right, if you needed access to anything in here, you take this cover off. This side just houses pretty much the solenoid. You have a couple of dampers on each side in this lower section of the valve body. You know, they say that they can crack, they are plastic. I have honestly never had that issue yet, but they say it can happen. I think they actually also may have been updated. You know, they're made differently because maybe at one point they were cracking, but like I said, me personally, I never had that issue. Okay, so we can actually assemble this valve body. All right, so the first thing we can do, since these are loose here, is we'll put the lower front section in because that has the dowel pin. And then we got to catch the manual valve in this track right here. So this is going to go okay, so the track nice and free. We'll put a couple of bolts in. Let's see. Make sure we don't lose anything. Okay. Now I'm just going to get a couple of lineup pins. All right, but first we have this little, I guess, orifice and spring. That's going to go right in the center, right here. All right, and then we can put this cover on, or this plate on, I should say. All right, you know, I gotta just get a couple of lineup pins that I use, so just give me 1 sec. Okay. All right, now we have this screen that's going to sit right here. That screen goes right here. Okay. All right, so I got my pins in. Now we're going to put this section of the valve body on, and this is going to go just like that. We'll lay it down. And this one, of course, these solenoids are going to face out, so this will go on just like that. All right, so get our bolts in. I have the line pin it on. And this is for the wire harness. I'll go like this. All right, now I'm going to take our lineup pins out. Now we'll get the rest of the bolts in here. This is the other piece for the wiring harness. And then, I believe, I'm going to go like this. When you put this valve body together, this one for the wiring harness faces out and this one faces in. tighten this down. Okay, so I'm going to do this probably about 80 inch-pounds. I'll turn my lights back on. Alright, we got this section here, the lower front here. Right? And this wire we can feed in for the input speed sensor. It'll go like that. And now we have those screws for those little tension plates, the bolts for the tension plates. Let me just hand tighten these. Okay, and one last thing I want to do, as they do come in the overhaul kit, I'm going to put some new O-rings on here. I don't know the exact mileage on this, but this trans for a 98, this trans was in real nice shape. Okay. All right, now let me straighten up here, and I'll get the unit on the bench, and we got to put a couple of things in, the seals and springs, and then we can put the valve body on and button it up. All right, also here is my filter, and of course my Made in Germany sign is right there. Filter in, Made in Germany. You know, we got the good stuff. That's going to go on just like that. 2 bolts hold that in. All right, so and that takes an O-ring to the filter. We'll put this aside. All right, so let me get set up for this, and I will be back in a minute. All right, so here's a shot of the trans before we put the valve body on. And what we're going to do is we're going to put seals, 2 seals here like this, down in here. And then we do springs and little snap rings that would keep the tension on the seal. And one area that you want to pay attention to as far as the feed pipes. This pipe here is your E-clutch feed pipe. And they say, I've never seen it before, but I have seen pictures of it, so it does happen. This right up here, this section right up here, is possible for it to come in contact with the valve body, and at that point it would rub a hole in it. And what would happen, I believe what happens when that does happen, first of all, it does not produce any codes, and I guess the computer must see that there is some kind of a leak in the circuit, and it will default to high line pressure when that happens, but it will not give you any codes. That's what I read about if this gets rubbed in it. But you can actually fix this. You can, you know, put a solder like a sleeve in here, or replace the tube, whatever you want. It is anchored down in here by a bolt, but this can actually come loose. So that's one area that you do want to watch. Again, I've never happened to me as many of these as I've done, but I have seen pictures of it. So it does happen. All right, so let's put these seals in. All right, now these got to be pushed down. So this is my 8mm socket. And then we'll just make sure these are down. Okay. Then we have 2 springs, pretty much the same length. And then we have these little tiny, tiny clips. And you want to be careful not to lose these. All right, hopefully you guys can see this, but I don't want to lose the clip. All right, so that's in. And then we'll get the other one started. That came out. Okay, that's in. So we'll just straighten these out a little. Okay. All right, so that's that. And now just going to reposition, because I'm going to have to stand where the camera is in front of the unit to put this valve body on. And then we can put the bolts in and button that up. All right, so let me just switch angles. Be back in a minute. All right, just a couple more notes on the valve body. All right, when you're setting this in place, there's a little tab here. It's a little black tab, and there's like tracks. There's a track that this piece fits into. So that's how you know that'll go in, you know, that's going in correctly. Otherwise it may not go in all the way. And you gotta get it down in far enough for it to take this clip on the outside. Okay, and the second thing is that lineup that went through the case Right, that's gonna go, you know, looks like right over here, so you just wanna make sure that the dowel is flush into the case. And just one note on the speed sensors here, they're both the same. So, you know, if you ever had to change them or you wanted to switch them as a test or whatever, they are the same. All right, so let me move this over. Let's move this back here. All right, let me get the valve body now. I'm going to grease up those O-rings. I'm going to get another tub mount. All right, so you got to kind of feed this down first, and then you can set the valve body on. So we'll set this up here. Alright, so we want to make sure that that's going into the track. Okay. Alright, so that is all the way in. Now let's set the valve body in. You got to make sure you also catch the manual valve. Okay, that's in. Then we got our bolts. Really only two different size bolts, real long, real short. You know, the solenoids on these 5HP24s very, very rarely go bad. The only time that I actually changed the set of solenoids was when the unit came in that was actually full of water. To be honest with you, other than that, I don't think I've ever changed the solenoids. So they're pretty good. Okay, here's your output speed sensor. It was right down in the hole there. All right, so now we can tighten these up and we can torque these bolts down. I got one more. Actually, there's probably one more. Yes. Okay, so now let's do that. Okay, so these I do to about, like 95, 100 inch-pounds. the outer ones, the shorter bolts. Okay. Alright, input speed sensor. Little hold down bracket. And the output speed sensor. Filter O-ring. The filter I do about 70 inch-pounds. Okay. Now really the only thing left is the pan. Let me just get the set up with the pan. All right, now we have our pan. Alright, the fill on these 5HP24s is right here. So on these ZF kits, they actually give you new fill plugs and drain plugs and you know, all the other plugs on the side here. Maybe for pressure readings, they give you all that stuff new in the kit. So since it's there, I like to change them. And here is a new drain plug right here. the seal here. Okay, these also are 27s. Need a little extension though. All right, these pan bolts, like 100, 105. All right, well, you know, we got this drain plug here. So this is okay. Turn this over. Now we have our little clip here. All right, and this is going to go on just like that. This little clip to hold the, so the wiring harness doesn't push in. That's in place. And now, just waiting for the converter. And this is it. On this one, this is together, waiting on the torque converter. And that's about it. So I thank you guys for watching and have a great day.